A lot of people believed that James Gunn was going to give them a tickle under your chin type of light and fluffy Superman 78 type of Superman movie. But what we saw from that teaser is something very, very different. This could be a more controversial movie than Man of Steel and Batman vs. Superman put together. After the trailer was released, he was quoted saying, "The reason my Superman is so battered and bloodied, he's a bit like America." And he said this: "I believe both sides of the political argument are good people, care about their country, but there's loud voices causing problems." Probably not the wisest thing to have said. I don't think what he said was wrong. I thought what he said was quite factual, but already right-wing commentators are going after James, writing on social media, reminding us all why James was fired from Disney. The funny thing is, these people have selective amnesia. A few weeks ago, when they thought James Gunn's Superman movie was going to tickle them under the chin, they were fine with why James was fired from Disney. All of a sudden, they're not happy with James, even calling him out for being woke. But there's no question about it. This film is going to expand on the themes from the Snyderverse. You think I'm crazy? Go back and watch that trailer again. Apart from the popping colours, you could be mistaken. If Henry Cavill was in this film and directed by Zack Snyder, you would think it would be a continuation of Zack's Snyderverse. You may think it's a Man of Steel 2 if Henry Cavill was in the movie instead of David Corenswet. Because James Gunn could have easily had Superman smiling in that teaser trailer. Because to be clear, Superman will be smiling in this film. He will be taking a cat from a tree, probably picking up a cat from a tree. And, you know, there will be gags in this movie. And from the trailer we've seen, there's going to be romance between Clark, Superman, and Lois. So there will be light-hearted elements to this film. But James decided not to show those elements of the film in his first teaser. What James wanted to do from this first teaser was to make it abundantly clear that he's making a very deep, serious Superman movie. Now, if you look at the trailer, the security guard at the Daily Planet is reading an edition of the Daily Planet. Now, some really clever person has zoomed in on that paper and found some very interesting articles from Clark Kent. Number one, Clark writes an article about climate change. Because what's going on is there's been lots of hurricanes and tornadoes, and Clark's done some research and he's attributing all these dramatic weather changes to climate change. Now we know that right-wing activists don't like hearing about climate change. Right-wing activists don't believe in climate change. So there could be big climate change commentary in this movie. It could be something that's just in an article, but it could be something that James expands on. Of course, the planet Krypton was destroyed by climate change, the climate changing. And Jor-El saw this happening. Jor-El was a scientist, but the Kryptonian Council were in denial. And that's why Krypton ultimately was destroyed. So Superman, seeing how Krypton was destroyed, obviously wants to avoid that happening again. Now, Smallville had similar commentary in the later seasons. But it's interesting. But James is taking a big risk doing this because we have seen right-wing activists destroy a film's narrative before and make movies and streaming shows fail when this kind of commentary is made. But that is nothing compared to the other article by Clark Kent in this movie in the Daily Planet. So there's this fictional type of Middle Eastern country that's having a conflict in this movie. Not necessarily in the film a Middle Eastern country, but clearly it's a substitute for Palestine and Israel's conflict. That's definite. That's absolutely what's going on here. Those rumours were going on for a long time. And this article confirms this. And we saw the kid with the Superman flag, and clearly that kid is in that country. Now, what it says in the article is, by Clark Kent again, that what happens, Superman goes over to this country where this conflict, where this civil war is, and he saves some people, not taking any sides. So this country's government are very upset with Superman. They believe it's a political act. And what happens is this superpowered being from this country goes to Metropolis and damages Metropolis as revenge for Superman acting politically as he sees it. Or is it a he? Now, there's a picture of this being who apparently uses his ocular laser powers to destroy some place in Metropolis. Now, this being is hidden under this kind of costume, this protective costume. Now, we know that Kryptonians have heat vision. Could it be Supergirl under somebody's control doing this thing? I'm not sure about that. Now, Superman is quoted in this article saying that people in America, a million miles away, are criticizing me for acting and calling it a political act. But I had no choice. People were in danger. I had to save them. Superman is speaking out really, really well. So this is excellent by James Gunn, but it's also very controversial, because you'd have to be living under a rock not to think that this is commentary about Palestine and Israel. And, and yes, there's going to be commentary in this film, clearly, with Superman acting against American interests, but also by this person from this country where the conflict is going to Metropolis, damaging Metropolis because of what Superman did from saving those people with, in the country with the conflict in it. The Americans are going to turn against him. We saw it in the trailer. They're shouting at him. They're chanting his name. Someone throws a can on his head. So it looks like that might be the reason he's getting hate in America. Now, for me, this is fantastic. This is a brilliant thing to do in a Superman movie. But the reality is we live in a really highly charged political environment today, and certain people are going to go against this movie because of this. They haven't yet. Maybe they haven't noticed what's in that Daily Planet article by Clark Kent. But this is highly controversial by James Gunn. Let's not forget, Warner Brothers Discovery are in huge debt. They need a successful Superman movie. And so far, so good. The views of this trailer are record-breaking, over 250 million, even coming fourth in the most watched trailer of all time, even beating Deadpool and Wolverine. That's fantastic. I was shocked by this trailer. And it's interesting, I've seen so many reactions, YouTube reactions to this trailer. They call the trailer hopeful. I'm not sure if you could call this a hopeful trailer. I'm not a hopeful merchant, right? I'm not someone who believes Superman needs to smile. Now, as a kid watching the Christopher Reeve movies, he was a very hopeful Superman. There's a brilliant moment in Superman 2 when he saves a woman's baby from something falling on the pram. And he looks back and she says, "Thank you." And he smiles at her and nods his head. It's a beautiful moment that brings happy tears to me. Very hopeful. There will be hopeful moments in this movie. But the themes that James seems to be tackling in this film are very controversial. Now, I did pre-warn you all that this wasn't going to be a tickle under your chin movie. No current day writer-director in their right mind is going to give you another Superman 78. Bryan Singer attempted it with Superman Returns with the same pacing of Superman 78, which was insane. That was never going to work for the general audience as much as I love Superman Returns. So James Gunn made it clear within the content of that teaser trailer that he's making a dark movie, yes. In terms of narrative, yes, the colours are popping. He's being very clever. He's given Superman the trunks. He's put the S-shield back on the cape. The colours are very bright. But the subject matter in this film, clearly from this trailer, are very dark. The man is spitting blood from the beginning of the trailer. They're putting him, he's going through the ringer. But what also captures my imagination is having Maxwell Lord and Lex Luthor in the same movie. Either these two are rivals or they're in cahoots. Now, if you know the characters of Maxwell Lord and Lex Luthor isn't going to approve of what Lord is doing. Maxwell Lord has literally got ownership on metahumans and he's using them to his advantage. Meanwhile, Superman is a rebel. Superman is out there doing things for the right reasons while all these other metahumans are being paid, right? They're literally a corporation. So that's interesting. That's why James was going to call this movie Superman Legacy, because these other metahumans ultimately are going to be inspired by Superman's legacy of being out there and doing things for the right reasons. Meanwhile, they're working for this organization, they're working for Lord Tech and doing things for money in the wrong way. And they're going to take Superman's example by the end, and they're going to give Maxwell Lord the middle finger. But it is interesting to have Maxwell Lord and Lex Luthor in the same movie. So this is a fascinating movie. This is not just some bright, fun, funny, gag-ridden movie. James has thought deeply about this movie, and you can tell from the trailer this is more than some fun ride for 2 hours and 10 minutes. He said it's under 2.5 hours, right? I predict 2 hours and 10 minutes, or just under 2 hours and 10 minutes run time, which is fine as far as I'm concerned. But this is going to be a very deep movie, and a lot of people are just not ready for that. You know, we've already seen some people complaining because Superman doesn't smile in this trailer. I think the smiling thing is a nitpick of a fool. I never cared about Superman smiling. I grew up with a smiley Superman, right? And a hopeful Superman, and that's fine. You know, and it's interesting when you see all these YouTubers do these reactions and they say, oh yeah, this movie's going to be hopeful. Unlike Man of Steel, on a multitude of occasions, name dropped the word hope. What else did you want them to do? Of course it was a darker movie, a contemporary movie, and that was okay with me. But if you think this isn't going to be just as contemporary, but James is clever, because in a lot of ways, Zack Snyder and his people laid the groundwork for James Gunn to make this type of Superman movie. Zack Snyder really was the blueprint, and James Gunn is going to take advantage of this. What's interesting to me, if you look at the trailer, how many Man of Steel types of Easter eggs there are in this movie. Even when he saves the kid, that's a Smallville Easter egg from the Smallville season 5, onwards, opening credits when Clark, braces the kid when the second meteor shower hits Smallville. There's actually fewer Superman 78 Easter eggs, and there's more Man of Steel Easter eggs. So that's a very interesting situation for me.